What the place lacked in fire exits, it made up for in atmosphere, and also a friendly squatter chic decor, though without the chic. The club was full of swaying bodies, and as small serving hats produced cans of beer from a mountain of trays visible over the shoulder of the barman. Leaning against the wall, wet with condensation, was a tall chap wearing a brown leather coat, with what I now know to be a chemically assisted smile. Turning to face me, he said, "Your first time in Colombia," in impeccable English. "Yes. How do you like it?" "Great. Great. People here are very friendly," I shout over the bass lines rattling from the speaker. "Very friendly." The decibels increased. "Yes, friendly," he yelled. And then he nodded to his hand, which had not yet left his side. "Would you like?" he said. He was holding a glass bullet-sized chamber with a plastic nozzle full of cocaine. "No thanks," I said. "No," he said. He seemed flabbergasted. Perhaps it was his reaction which prompted me to forcefully add, "I've just spent the day listening to trade union leaders talking about the hundreds of their members that get killed by paramilitaries who are funded by cocaine. I don't buy Nestle products because of their baby milk, so I'm certainly not going to go for that," I shouted over the music, jerking my thumb at his container. No, it is okay," he said, genuinely upset. "This is FARC cocaine. This is left-wing cocaine. Not paramilitary. This is fine." A smile crept up one side of his face and his eyes glinted. Sneeringly, I declare, "Sure, it's fine. It's probably fair trade, right?" And as quick as it came, the smile left his face. In fact, he looked quite cross and started to lean towards me. And at that point, it dawned on me that it may be unwise to pick an argument in a Bogota nightclub with a drug dealer. Perhaps, with hindsight, a polite no should have sufficed. "Your first visit," he shouts over the music with blank menace. "First time, right?" Sam suddenly loomed from the dance floor, sweaty and clutching a can of beer. He slouched on the wall with a bump and a smile. "All right." And for some reason, the next words I said were, "Dispara el gordo primero."
Thanks.
There was a pause. The man looked at Sam, Sam looked at me, I looked at the man looked back. Sam looked at the man looked at Sam. Sam turned to me, then turned to the man, and with an innocent grin yelled, "All right." And the man with the jacket shook his head and walked away. One of the things that took us to Colombia was the fact that there have been trade unionists working in Coca-Cola who have been murdered by paramilitaries. And one of them in 1996 was a man called Isidro Segundo Gil, who was killed inside a Coke bottling plant at Carepa. He was actually killed virtually under the logo. And Coke have not managed to have an investigation, an independent investigation into those events. All in all, some people say it's 9, it's actually 8 people who were killed, who are part of the Coca-Cola trade unions or system there. And there are very strong allegations that the bottling plant managers in Colombia colluded with the paramilitaries and wanted the union destroyed. And what the union did is they launched a court case in America under the Alien Tort Claims Act. It's one of those great sort of laws. It means that if you can bring a case in America for crimes that happened outside America if it refers to kidnap, torture, genocide, murder, or crimes against humanity. And recently, quite a few multinationals are being taken to court under this law, and there's been people getting upset about it in the business community, saying, "No, this is very bad. We don't want this law. It shouldn't happen." And they actually said it's obstructing American business. And you think, well, if this is a law specifically about kidnap, murder, genocide, and if that's obstructing your business, then we're all in fucking trouble. So anyway, what happened was, although Coke had been sort of saying the union hasn't got a case, or they've been putting out through third parties that it's wrong, I found out that there was a little, this wasn't quite the case. I'm just going to read you what had been happening. Timing is everything. From boiling an egg to having sex to deciding it's time to talk with the trade union taking your company to court. Hi, come on in. You all right?
Yeah, we went to the Horseberry Road.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. You probably ended up in the East End.
We did.
It's dreadful over there. Anyway, you got upset there, Tony. It's not. It's up and coming. You know that. It's up and come. So what happened was the US lawsuit wasn't going anywhere fast, but that all changed when a district court judge called Judge Martinez dismissed the case against Coke's bottlers. What he did was, this was just a hearing to see whether the case was admissible in America. Crucially, the court decision was not for the case itself. He then struck out the bottlers as well as Coca-Cola and said, no, it doesn't apply in America, which meant that the lawyers could launch their appeal. And in their appeal, they were hoping to get disclosure. They were going to go to the Coca-Cola and say, we want all your documents in the legal process. Coke didn't, I can't imagine they wanted that. So, what had happened was, just after it looked like the case was going back into court again, Coca-Cola Company began to negotiate with the trade union in Colombia, Sinatronal. When I asked Coca-Cola about these talks, they portrayed them as fruitful and informative, as if remembering the biscuits served. They went on to describe the negotiation as warm and buttery, sweet and moist and chocolatey on top. The purpose of the talks, the company said, was to assess whether a mediated resolution of the parties' differences could be achieved. In short, they were looking to settle out of court, and with a settlement like this comes money, a lot of money. How much money? A barrel full of money. Although I cannot disclose the exact sum offered to Sinatronal and the plaintiffs, at the end of a dollar, it's my understanding that it had 6 noughts at the end of a dollar sign, and in between a couple of digits. For those working in the British coin of the realm, it would be the same number of noughts, but a single digit in front of the pound sign. For those of you working in Zimbabwean dollars, I'm afraid the world has run out of noughts. If the company was offering money, what were the conditions attached to it? I spoke to Ed Potter, who is Coca-Cola, he's their Global Workplace Rights Director, the man with intimate knowledge of these negotiations. I said to him that the company had a history in this department of financial settlements are reached, but part of that financial settlement is that you can't criticise us again. You shut up and you go away. Ed Potter replied, all I will say is that as a general matter, we've had several different resolutions and you've just described one of them. Whereas Coke described the talks as fruitful and informative, Sinatronal used an altogether different set of words. We're in a process that lasted over a year and a half, where it was talk, and with them, in order to find a solution for the conflict, and it didn't give us any result at all, said Edgar Paez, the union's international officer. He's sitting in the office where I've heard other trade union people come and give testimony about the murders. Edgar is a man prone to smiling, and he's got a touch of the South American George Michael to him, not having drugs in toilets, but in his unshaven appearance. And throughout our conversation, he remains grim-faced on this occasion. The only reason Coca-Cola negotiated, according to him, was because they didn't want us to keep reporting and campaigning on them. What the company wanted was to buy the silence of the people involved. They give them some money to the victims in order not to denounce the problem. The negotiations broke down in early 2008. Coke said no final resolution had been possible. An impasse was reached and no further discussions are anticipated at this time. Arguably, the impasse was the conditions of the settlement. Coca-Cola would pay millions of dollars, but anyone working for Coca-Cola FEMSA and involved in the lawsuit would leave their job. They would no longer work at Coke, and more than this, they would be legally bound never ever to criticise Coca-Cola again. According to Edgar Paez, this would apply not only in Colombia but everywhere in the whole world. They wanted us to sign an agreement that no one would denounce Coca-Cola anymore for the rest of their lives. In effect, if signed, it would prevent them from campaigning against any multinational as well. Any multinational that Coca-Cola had done business with or was doing business with. And this would apply from the moment they signed until the day they died.